Good evening, and welcome to Red's Classic Theater. For the past 2 decades, injured, orphaned, and pollution-damaged wildlife from around the lower mainland has been nursed back to health by the caring staff at Burnaby's Wildlife Rescue Association. Hi, everybody, I'm Red Robinson. In the 20 years since Wildlife Rescue has opened its doors, 20,000 animals have been cared for here, and we'll show you some of that care a little later. And our movie this week features another caring soul. Peter Sellers and Shirley MacLaine star in the 1979 film Being There. Based on a story by Jerzy Kosinski, the author not only adapted his novel for the screen, but also planned to star in the film as well. But something Peter Sellers did convinced Kosinski to hire him for the role. We'll tell you about that later, and also Shirley MacLaine's account of the non-affair with Peter Sellers. Now here's Act 1 of Being There. This week on Red's Classic Theater, we're getting up close and personal with some injured animals on the mend at the Wildlife Rescue Association in Burnaby. Wildlife Rescue is a non-profit organization with a twofold mission: to care for and rehabilitate injured animals and to educate the public about our wild friends. This facility along the shores of Burnaby Lake treats almost 3,600 animals a year, everything from squirrels to bats to coyotes and deer. Their full-time staff of 5 is supplemented by more than 100 volunteers. And just in case you're wondering, Wildlife Rescue operates under federal and provincial permits, allowing them to care for animals until they can be released back into the wild. More from Wildlife Rescue in a moment. The staff at Wildlife Rescue spends much of their time on public education. They meet with rod and gun clubs to advise their members on ways to fish and hunt with less danger to wildlife. And they also invite and encourage high school and college students interested in wildlife management as a career to become a part of the Wildlife Rescue family. Funds to support the good work of the Wildlife Rescue Association come entirely from public donations. If you'd like to help the Wildlife Rescue Group, call TV12 tomorrow morning. We'll put you in touch. Now let's return to Being There. Peter Sellers is starring in Being There this week on Red's Classic Theater. Peter Sellers considered his role in tonight's movie as the culmination of his career. For 9 years, he chased the part of Chance. And even when he heard that author Jerzy Kosinski might want to play the lead role himself, Peter Sellers never gave up. He wrote letters to Kosinski and even signed the character's name. But it wasn't until the author met with the actor that he was persuaded to give Sellers the role. While walking together in the garden, Sellers assumed his character, demonstrating his body language and facial expressions. He was Chance, Kosinski said. Nobody thought Chance was even a character, but Peter knew that man. The downside of all this was that during production, Peter Sellers could not separate the actor from the role. He maintained the character until the production was finished, driving the crew and the cast absolutely batty. Now let's return to Being There. Hope you're enjoying Being There this week on Red's Classic Theater. For Peter Sellers, one of the toughest parts of tonight's movie was finding the right voice for his character. His wife, Lynn Fredericks, explains it this way: listening to Peter's repeated efforts was like watching a man unpacking a suitcase for something he was afraid he hadn't packed. Finally, Sellers found his answer staring him right in the face: a huge poster of his favorite comedian, Stan Laurel. It was Laurel's meek delivery that provided the blueprint for the voice of Chance. Next came the walk. As his wife videotaped him, Sellers developed a walk that suggested a man who exercised little, was overweight, and who ambled along at his own pace. The final touch was the short-cropped haircut. When he walked onto the set for the first time, he was no longer Peter Sellers, the actor. He was Chance, the gardener. Now back to Being There. Shirley MacLaine is appearing in Being There this week on Red's Classic Theater. A few months after completing work on tonight's movie, Shirley MacLaine ran into a very prominent producer on the street. With a wink in his eye, he said to Shirley, "How did you enjoy working with Peter Sellers?" "Well," not getting it, she said, "well, I found him a little detached, but he was fun to work with." "Ah, come on," shouted the producer. "We all know that you had an affair with Peter Sellers." MacLaine was totally mystified by the remark, especially since she'd not even shared a meal, much less a bed, with the actor. Well, it turns out that Sellers had fantasized the entire episode, and this wasn't the first time. Back in 1961, Sellers had dreamed up a similar scenario between himself and Sophia Loren when they worked on the motion picture The Millionaires. Maybe Peter Sellers had a little more of chance in him than anyone knew. Now let's return to Being There. Being There is our feature movie this week on Red's Classic Theater. Character actor Melvyn Douglas was not the first to be offered his role in tonight's movie. Before he accepted, Laurence Olivier had turned down the role because he felt some of Shirley MacLaine's scenes were immoral. Douglas said his work on Being There was a joy. He recalled how Peter Sellers and Jack Warden would stay on the set long after their scenes had been shot and regale the cast and crew with their stories of their early careers in show business. On the other hand, Melvyn Douglas remembered working with Shirley MacLaine as a distinct challenge. He noted that she continually pushed director Hal Ashby for the motivation behind her character's actions. While her probing was sometimes a bother, Douglas felt that, in the end, it contributed to making Being There a better film. And who can argue, as Melvyn Douglas received his second Best Supporting Actor Academy Award for his role in tonight's movie. Now let's return to Being There. From the Wildlife Rescue Association in Burnaby, time for our weekly movie trivia quiz. 12 years before working together on Being There, Peter Sellers and Shirley MacLaine worked on another film. Do you know the title of that 1967 film? We'll be back with the answer in just a moment. Time now for the answer to our movie trivia quiz. In 1967, Shirley MacLaine played 7 different roles in a movie opposite Peter Sellers, among others, titled Woman Times 7, a comedy drama. Now let's return to Shirley MacLaine and Peter Sellers in Being There. Next Sunday night on Red's Classic Theater, buckle up and hang on as Tom Cruise chases his dream on the banked oval. Days of Thunder, co-starring Robert Duvall and Nicole Kidman. Our movie next week on Red's Classic Theater. And that brings this week's show to an end. Hope you enjoyed Being There, starring Peter Sellers. And a very special thanks to the Wildlife Rescue Association for hosting our show this week. If you'd like to know more about them, or if you wish to volunteer some of your time, call TV 12 tomorrow morning. We'll put you in touch. Speaking of tomorrow morning, I'll see you on 650 CI with the Wake Up Club, and next week here on Red's Classic Theater. From Burnaby Lake, thanks for being with us, and good night, everybody. Being There on Red's Classic Theater will continue. Red's Classic Theater from the Wildlife Rescue Association in Burnaby will continue. Red's Classic Theater from the Wildlife Rescue Association in Burnaby will continue. Being There on Red's Classic Theater will continue. We'll bring out the animal lover in you this week on Red's Classic Theater. The Wildlife Rescue Association nurses injured animals back to health in the hope they can be returned to the wild. Peter Sellers and Shirley MacLaine star this week in Being There. We'll tell you about the affair Sellers thought he had with MacLaine and why it took him 9 years to land the lead role in the movie. I'm Red Robinson. Join me, won't you?
Sunday night at 9 on TV 12.
We'll bring out the animal lover in you this week on Red's Classic Theater. The Wildlife Rescue Association nurses injured animals back to health in the hope they can be returned to the wild. Peter Sellers and Shirley MacLaine star this week in Being There. We'll tell you about the affair Sellers thought he had with MacLaine and why it took him 9 years to land the lead role in the movie. I'm Red Robinson. Join me, won't you?
Tonight at 9 on TV 12.
This week on Red's Classic Theater, Peter Sellers plays a simple gardener who becomes a media sensation in Being There. Sunday night at 9 here on TV 12. Tonight on Red's Classic Theater, Peter Sellers plays a simple gardener who becomes a media sensation in Being There. tonight at 9 here on TV 12. Being There on Reds Classic Theater, Sunday night at 9. Being There on Reds Classic Theater tonight at 9.